Hey y'all, welcome back to the shop. Got everything locked up for the night, so go ahead and grab a drink, have a seat, get comfortable, and let's have a chat. So I know we just had a video, but I did have a request for another monster picture from our subscriber Cody. And I always appreciate the community, and so I'm happy to work on another monster for him. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're also going to talk about some stuff, too. So it's not like random stuff. It's not going to be anything too heavy. Never is, right? I'll flash a picture of Cody's monster up on the screen. Now-ish. And then we're just basically going to redesign this guy. Or girl, I'm not sure. Could be either. And we kick on some of the music. And we'll get to work here. So one of the things that I like about working on monsters like this is there's really no rule set for making a monster, right? Because monsters aren't real. And they're based on, obviously they're based on like real things and ideas and stuff like that, but they're like you have complete creative freedom when you're working on the monsters. So he gave me the explanation that this thing is named Arachnobat, and it is an acrobatic spider, so kind of like Spider-Man, but more I guess spider than man this time. So let's see. What I'm thinking of doing is trying to give him some kind of a dynamic pose. And that's going to be our center line. And he's got kind of that squared head, like the Minecraft head. So we're going to have to try and do this in perspective, which is crazy hard. But we'll do what we can. I may have to move that back to the center. Yeah, so one of the things that I think I like the most, I know we talked about the Greek stuff and the mythology and all that last time. One of the things I think I like the most about the mythology are the monsters, the fantastical monsters. Like in the Hercules story, you've got the Lernaean Hydra, and you've got the lion, the basically nigh invincible lion that's only weak to its own claws. It's like a Chuck Norris lion. You get the Hydra. You know, you cut off one head and 3 more grow back in its place. Or 2 more grow back in its place. It's just such a cool... Monsters are just so cool. Because you have just the freedom to do really whatever you want. I don't know why I erased my center line. I kind of needed that. I'll put some eyes in here. These are just placeholder eyeballs. I'm going to get the scowl going. And you know, you've got the harpies, and in Odysseus' story, you've got the sirens. So I just think that monsters are so... Oh, God, jeez. These YouTube channels that just, like, blast them. They'll have one song on that's, like, quiet, and then the next one is, like, blasted. Okay. Anyway, I forgot what I was talking about. The monsters. Monsters in the old Greek myths and stuff. But probably one of my favorite monsters has got to be Scylla. And I don't know, for those of you who are paying closer attention, you can see I've got like a tab up here for Scylla. I'm actually trying to design a Scylla. One of these days, I'm going to make a comic for the Odyssey. Just kind of in my own style. The Odyssey is probably going to be more of like a... I don't say comedy, but more funny than serious type of... Anyway. Scylla's one of my favorite monsters, I think. Just like this pure force of nature that lives in a cave and just eats anything that gets too close. And opposite of it, it's got Charybdis, which is the giant living whirlpool that forces people to to choose either try to face Charybdis or face Scylla. And either way you go, it is certain death. And it was absolutely death for Odysseus' crew, unfortunately, for 6 of his men. So, I don't know, maybe if you guys like the mythology stuff, like, we can talk about that more. You know, I have no problem with that. Like I said, I am a huge fan of that sort of thing. So we can absolutely talk about it. But for now, we kind of wanted to talk about monsters. And also, if you have stuff you'd like to talk about, just let me know. I am happy to talk about whatever you guys want to hear about. So, this guy's got like this little deal here. It's actually maybe too high. This is something like this. Yeah, and then he's got a little swirly thing in the middle of it. Do you guys have a favorite monster? Like, is there a particular creature that you're hyper fun on? My app is, or my software is bugging out right now. Hang in there. It'll recover. But I think like fan interpretations of monsters are always really cool too. Seeing them doing different things rather than what the mythology says that they're supposed to typically do. I always like seeing those. Or like fan recreations of stuff. I think that's cool. One thing I have noticed, though, since I've been posting a lot more shorts, is that fan art seems to do way better than original characters. And I just think that the simple reason for that, obviously, is that they've already got an audience. So we try and line this up here with this one. Because he's got like what looks like a crown on the top here. And I love seeing people's original characters too, because they're so cool and everyone is so creative. And I love seeing other people's original characters. I just hate that the algorithm prefers fan art, really. It is such a shame that original characters don't get the love they deserve. But I can understand why. If the views aren't there, you know, people want fan art and they want their power scaling arguments and what have you. So I can understand. And I think original characters, they definitely do deserve their own place in the algorithm. Unfortunately, it's not up to me. But if you have OCs, definitely share them, because I'd love to see them. He's got some little like ears too here. I'm pretty sure those are ears. So this is an awesome design. The original design for this Arachnobat is awesome, by the way. Super cool. Super interesting design for a spider. Love to see cool stuff like this. Okay, let's see here. Now I'm trying to keep these videos to less than an hour. Like, we've been really pushing out these videos to an hour or more. That's just a long time. So I'm trying to keep the videos a little shorter. So if we don't quite finish this guy, which we might, if we don't quite finish this guy, maybe we can pick him up in a second video, or I'll just finish him and post the short for the inking or color or whatever we don't get to. Let's see. Now, I'm trying to decide on what the pose is going to be here, because I want... The theme is acrobat. And so I want to make it really kind of scream acrobat. And I think I may have to get rid of all that I just put in. And what we'll do instead is maybe we tilt the head back and have him like balancing on it'd be like a high wire, except it would be like a web high wire. I think that'd be cool. So we want this pose to be dynamic, so we'll make that line as dynamic as I think we can get it. Okay, and we'll try to keep the same shape language that Cody had for this picture, which is very blocky. It's a very it's like it's blocky but with curves. So we'll try to keep that. Like make this arm like maybe he's reaching out here. He's got 2 fingers, looks like, on each of its 6 hands, and then it's got the 2 feet. So let's make it try to reaching like this. I'm honestly surprised I haven't had to skip many commercials yet. It's been pretty good about not hitting commercials tonight. Or ads. Sorry. 1990s kid. I grew up in front of the television and there were commercials back then. They're ads now. You guys, a little gripper there, and then another arm here. The perspective is crazy on this. Crazy challenging. It's fun to do challenging stuff. Hopefully I can make it work. Let's see, we're going to make that smaller to make the perspective work. Give him his little claw. Yeah, so that's the one thing I have noticed. So like any of my original characters that I post on YouTube for the shorts, they get like 100 views. But when I do fan art, depending on what the fan art is too, it'll get, 2,000 views, which is just insane. It's an absolutely insane discrepancy. But like I said, it makes sense. If the engagement's not there, why is the algorithm going to push something to people who are just going to flip away? They could be going to something that they actually want to see more of. But I'm hoping that I can at least make these designs cool enough that people do want to still see them. And hopefully, members of the community like Cody and that, these creatures and monsters and all of this are super popular, and they take off and they can run with original characters. So here, I'm also a big fan of like in film practical effects. I had a huge issue with the original, the Star Wars prequel trilogy that we got when I was a kid. They just like went absolutely ham on digital effects, and I was like, some of them are cool. Like, don't get me wrong, that Lucasfilm was way ahead of its time for digital effects. Absolutely. Some of those digital effects still hold up to this day, which is insane. And I'm trying to make this claw work. I don't know why it's not working. There we go. A little better. It's a little claw hand. Alright. And then it's going to be going like this in this direction, right? For the perspective. And then it's going to be kind of overlapping there. Here we go. And so a lot of older films didn't have digital effects. They just had practical effects. And while some of them were a little cringe, like the old Star Trek, like the original Star Trek, practical effects were kind of cringe. Some of them were really good. Like one that I actually still to this day think is fantastic are the Jurassic Park practical effects. It is insane to me to think that they, like anything really Steven Spielberg from the 90s, like Jaws, those were practical effects. Crazy to think that they got an actual functioning shark robot or T-Rex robot that looked so darn realistic and still holds up to this day, and it's even better than the Jurassic World garbage that we've been getting. Right? Move this guy more to the center. I apologize if this is a girl character. Keep calling it a guy. It's like the era that I'm from. Everybody was a guy. Hey guy, hey dude. Called everybody dude. Okay, so the center line for this upper abdomen, because I think for insects the upper part is the abdomen and then the lower part is the thorax. I could have that backwards. I am not I am not an entomologist. Bugs were not something I cared to study when I was in school. I am technically a biologist, but I'm more of a mammals person than bugs, so I don't know. I do recall that one of them is an abdomen and one of them is a thorax. Which is which? Couldn't tell you. Best guess is that the abdomen is the upper part and the thorax is the lower part, but could be wrong. Could be very wrong. In fact, I want to make sure that I'm actually right about that. Give me a second while I Google that. So let's see, the thorax is the middle section of an insect's body. So I had that backwards. So the thorax is the middle. So this part here is the thorax. And this part here, what is like the little heart piece on the bottom, is the abdomen. So that was my mistake. Like I said, entomologist. Not me. Not me. So we want to make this blocky with curves. That's the theme is also it's acrobat, but blocky with curves. And I messed that up. I'll fix this here. So a lot of the practical effects from the 90s, really, and they still hold up, which is crazy to me. Absolutely insane. But it's great. That's how you know you made a really good movie, when the effects still hold up to this day. It's crazy. Good movies back in the 90s and the 80s, the early 2000s. It only really fell off when studios started getting really cheap, which is super unfortunate. I'm going to say cheap because it's not really cheap. The digital effects have got to be way more expensive than the practical effects. And I don't know why they've just gone so hard in the digital effect thing. Like when they brought Yoda back for the Star Wars, the Last Jedi or whatever, they brought him back as a puppet, and that was great. I thought that was awesome. Alright, let's see. So he's going to be balancing on this like wire, right? That's probably too low or too high. So we can probably... I'm just going to rough in a leg here, even though I know it's more like a bug leg. Man meat or bug meat? I don't care for man meat. Team 4-star joke. Okay, and I know he's not going to have normal human feet, but I'm just kind of I'm thinking. Yeah, sure. Something like that, maybe. Should we twist him a little bit? Like this, actually? It looks like he's actually pushing off on the high wire. The high wire is giving a little bit of a bend. And then in the background, we want to make the high wire obvious that it's like a spun web. And let's have like webs in the background or something. Okay, so the design has like this part, but then it's almost like inverted. It's got the calves on, or like the bulge for the calves kind of on the front. Like this here. And we can come back down here and we get rid of these little feetsies. And give it some curves. Curves and blocks. Curves and blocks with the Acrobat. Here we go. Acrobat theme. We to come down here. That might be too heavy of a curve. Let's straighten out the picture a little bit. We can curve this guy around here. So what are some examples of, practical effects that you guys actually liked? Better than, what was the digital effects age that will really kind of come down to these days? If you even remember that, I wouldn't blame you at all for not remembering. Not at all. At any rate, I think we need to make these arms a little longer. Really force the perspective more. Just jack these arm sizes up a little bit. Push them out. There we go. Cool stuff. Yeah, super cool design for a monster. I liked the other monster too. The red guy with the 2 legs. He was super cool. Alright. So we got that. I'm pretty sure that's matching up to the design fairly well. Now it does have colorations here that we can add as red. There we go. You know what I'd actually like to see is a Star Fox movie. I know they said they're making one. I kind of want to see that sooner than later. Hopefully they're almost done with it. At this point. I'm also hoping that Nintendo decides to adopt the DreamWorks design for Fox instead of continuing on with the crazy designs that they have right now. And in my opinion, they are crazy. I don't know. All I'm saying is Cat Monroe looks like she smokes cigarettes and then eats the butts afterwards. She's crazy looking. Like strung out Cat Monroe. Sometimes I like to go through with the red and just make sure I'm understanding what I made here. They've also got the remake of The Legend of Zelda coming out too, and if you can hear the music, what we're listening to is like a Legend of Zelda, kind of like a musical compilation, I guess. They've got the Ocarina of Time being remade for the Switch 2, like ground up, same as Star Fox, ground up remake. And one of the things I brought up yesterday, I think, maybe, no, I don't think I did talk about this yesterday. One of the things I read recently in an article was that Nintendo was relying on the old classics. They released the old classics for resale, the old Nintendo classics. When the Wii U came out, they were relying on those sales to get them through the Wii U era. And the Switch 2 almost feels like it's the Wii U, but more modern, if that makes sense. Like, Nintendo made a huge mistake. Like, they're just too far behind on the console war to really have a good console competitor for the PlayStation and the Xbox. And I know Xbox has made it more than clear that they want to move to PC and drop the consoles altogether. Which, whatever, I guess. I just think Nintendo was too far behind, and so they had to do something. And so they just released the Switch 2, which is basically just a Switch 1, but a little better. So it might as well have been called the Switch Plus, to be honest with you. Oops. Which is what they should have named the thing. And then one of the things I think they didn't do when the Wii U came out was they're completely shut down development for Wii games. I don't think they did that back then. But they have since completely shut down development of Switch games. You have to buy them for the Switch 2 now, because most games are no longer compatible with the Switch 1, the new games, that is. Like, this new remake of Star Fox and the Ocarina of Time are not going to be available on the Switch 1, which is really kind of crappy. I understand why, because the hardware just can't keep up. But I've also heard a lot of reports that the hardware for the Switch 2 is nominally better. So, I don't know. Alright, so let's go ahead and get to inking before we start really running out of time here, because I think we're really pushing the 30-minute mark now. Let's bring this up, maybe 12. Okay. Yeah, so I wanted to do... I've got some comics coming out. Little 4-panel short comics for now while I practice kind of, setting the stage and stuff like that. But I plan to have, like, full web comics and stuff, too. Soonish. I have a lot of stories written. I just haven't had time to illustrate them. Many for webtoons, like web comics and stuff, but some of them just little 4-panel things, or graphic novels graphic novels, and manga is another thing I really want to try to get into, is really anything where I can tell a story and people will read it and enjoy it. That's all. here. I have also heard that Star Fox is getting a day 1 patch update, which seems kind of crazy. So they explained it to me that it's an anti-piracy thing, and that makes sense to me. You keep the pirates off of it. But I guess it's also going to release the multiplayer. Because there's going to be like an online 4v4 multiplayer for Star Fox, the new Star Fox, and it's going to be 4 people on Team Star Fox and 4 people on Team Star Wolf. Which sounds cool. I will be interested to see how that works out. For sure. There we go. Should we give him a little creative license here with some hair? There we go. A little bit more personality. It's got a lot of personality now. For sure. Well, it had a lot of personality before. We give it a tiny bit more with the hair. Go here. Some of the things that really amaze me are like how crazy some ancient Greek imaginations were to come up with some of the stories that they came up with. Absolutely timeless monsters, the themes that made sense. Crazy. I know they're not like barbarians or cavemen or something, but it's just crazy to me to think that these complicated stories of the human condition could come from the ancient world, you know? But I guess it's not so far off. You know, you had stuff like the Odyssey and the Iliad, you had the stories of Hercules, the stories of the gods of Zeus and them, but it's not just Greece either. Kind of every region has their own like deity or a pantheon of deities that have these crazy interesting stories. Like in Japan, they've got these super interesting stories too. Just kind of, it's nuts, man. In my spare time, I like reading about the mythology of different places. It's just so cool. I love seeing people's creative stuff that they make. It's super awesome. And that's what makes me so sad about modern day Hollywood. I feel like they've forsaken creativity for the almighty dollar. And that's kind of been like the theme across basically the whole world at this point. Is we've given up being good people to each other. Not everyone, obviously, but a lot of big corporations in favor of a higher bottom line. Again, I understand why. I just think that people should be more important than the bottom line. Really. I can remember a time where in Colorado you could get a bag for your groceries and you didn't have to pay for it. And I know that's less about corporations saving money than it is about an environmental thing, but still. You could go to these restaurants and they'd give you sauce for free, however many you wanted. It didn't matter. Nowadays, it's like, nah, you gotta pay 25 cents per sauce that you want. That's such a petty issue, but it's kind of the point is, that these, it just seems like everybody's more interested these days, especially Hollywood and big corporations, about making money instead of making good products that people can use, they like, and enjoy, you know? That's what bothers me, especially when it comes to telling stories, because that's my big thing. I love telling stories. I love hearing good stories. And so when Hollywood comes out with, like, The Last Jedi, that's basically just a political hit piece against capitalism, I got problems. Like, you didn't even make it subtle. At least make it subtle. Rod Serling used to make his points subtle in The Twilight Zone. That's why they were so good. This is, you weren't banging someone over the head with the point or with your political message. You were making them think about it and actually consider why your point might be valid. Instead, it's like, holy cow, it's just like WWF, man. You're just beating them over the head with a chair. The chair that is your message. So, I don't know. That's just me. I'll probably give it some texture here. I'm not sure if this was supposed to be a horn. It turned into one. I think it was supposed to be like maybe a crown. There we go. This little guy inked up. We want to put another layer for the background, just in case we mess something up. This is the hard part. It's the matching. I suppose I could just copy that layer and then paste it and move it down. I don't know. I always like making things harder than they need to be. We can make it like the Spider-Man, where it's got like the little knots in it. You know, like this or whatever. We don't need to do that though. We'll leave that as a creative Todd McFarlane decision. For those of you who don't know, Todd McFarlane was the one who actually came up with the idea for the Spider-Man webs. Back in the day, before McFarlane came around, Spider-Man's webs were like this. He'd shoot them out like this, like they'd just be like a web sprayer. When McFarlane came around, he instead decided that why would they do that when they could have like a knot that you shoot them in a string. Like, sure, they could come out like a spray like this, but they would always try to knot themselves, and it would create like the Spider-Man knots that we see today. That was not a very good drawing of McFarlane. I don't do Spider-Man very well. But that was his creative decision. He was also the one who created Venom, for those of you who care about that sort of thing. And speaking of monsters, Venom is a massive monster. He's like one of the cooler Marvel monsters. Like, absolutely. We're still in the background layer, so maybe we can do like... Mess that up. It's got to cook back around more. Give it more of these spider web looking things around. But that whole kind of symbiote thing, I think, is really cool. And it's not just Venom, like Carnage. I remember Carnage used to be one of my favorite monsters back in the day for Marvel. And it was just because he's so insane, doing the craziest stuff. I like in the whole bringing Spider-Man and Venom together against a common enemy. I think that was cool. Make this one like just dangling down, like it's hanging here, like the spider hasn't quite finished that web yet. Maybe we can knot it like right here and then bring another one down here this way. Like this. Another one maybe down here. You're going to kind of give it that rounded effect. Yeah, so I always liked, you know, Venom and Carnage and that sort of stuff. And another one was Craven. He was kind of cool. Super unknown until he recently had that movie that totally bombed because they misinterpreted the character as usual. The Punisher is a really cool one. Definitely one of my favorite Marvel superheroes, even though he's not really a superhero. The Thomas Jane movie from the 1998, I think, was probably my favorite Punisher iteration. And a lot of people like the new one, and that's cool. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to like the new one. I just prefer the Thomas Jane. Have to make it come down to a point or something over here. Like it's kind of like it's an intricate web, maybe. Something like that. Alright, and we are probably heavy on time here, so let's go ahead and get this guy colored. Because I'd like to, like I said, not have this thing drag out to be over an hour long. That's okay. Now the colors for this guy are brown and yellow and orange. His little claws are orange and his little crown is orange. Go up here and we gotta actually finish the crown here to contain that orange color. And then let's create a couple layers. I'm starting to get start naming some of these layers. I'll just call this one flats. And then we want one here for just like a general background color, which I think we can probably make. See, most of the color is going to be brown, so we'll make it like maybe a blue. We'll just dump blue down here. Make it a little... Well, if he's going to be like a monster, it probably needs to be coming from like a scary area. Like a dark blue to a cave, and we can make a gradient of that once we get this this guy all colored up. Oh. Okay. We can make that like a darker brown. Darker than that. Looks appropriate. And then the frontal part is a little bit lighter of a brown. I'm actually kind of looking forward to the new Legend of Zelda movie also that's coming out. I know it's supposed to be live action. And at first, I was kind of like skeptical because Link is going to actually have lines and he's going to be able to talk and stuff like that. But Nintendo's been doing a pretty good job with the new Mario movies. So I'm willing to give this one a chance. Actually, the inside is like a lighter a much lighter brown, almost yellow. And this one is a little lighter, sort of more of a brown, but lighter. Like that. Nope, not quite right. I think it's this that's throwing me off. It's just like this color, but more orange. No. Oh, we put that all in the background color layer. Ah. Well, whatever. Whoops. That's unfortunate. That's what I get for not paying attention, you know what I mean? Gotta pull all the colors out now. And we get to start over. Alright. Go back up here to the flats. And we can make... There. Darker brown. Darker brown. This one here. Okay, and his eyes are yellow. Yeah, any of you guys gonna go see the Amazing Digital Circus in theaters? The final episode, which is like the 2-hour deal. 2-hour final episode. I am not. I don't honestly know if there's a theater nearby that is going to be running it. So I don't think I'll be going. Not that I really would anyway. It is just too expensive to go to the theaters these days, you know? Just can't do it. Love to, but can't. I'm actually also curious what direction they're going to take The Legend of Zelda moving forward, because they've kind of played out the Breath of the Wild style gaming. And so I don't know which direction they're going to take it. Are they going to... They can't go back. They cannot go back to the way it was before. After giving us an open world, free roam experience. They just can't do it. And his little claws are orange. So what we're going to do is we're going to go like this. There we go. Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. Because they're gonna have to give us another open world, which I think is fine. I don't think they mind doing that. I'm just concerned that it's gonna wind up being like the way Pokemon is. Super lazy, just the bare minimum that they can absolutely do. And it's just gonna be, I don't know, just not the greatest experience. Because that's kind of how Pokemon has been these past few updates, or these past few games. Like, I played through the Shining Pearl. And I know that's not the most recent one. That was a couple, and that's not even a new game. But man, that one was so bad. I was so frustrated playing it. It's like, no thanks. And then we had Violet and Scarlet. We bought both of them, one for my son and one for me, so that we could trade with each other. It was just awful. like, the game was a buggy mess. Half of the time it didn't work right. Like, this is just like immersion destroying bugs and stuff. I don't know. That's the, whoa, happened here. That's the experience I had. Just not great. So, I don't know. We'll see about the new. Now, Z to A I thought was really fun. Definitely liked Z to A. This has got this color here, but it's also got an internal heart that we missed. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. And that is this color. Whoops. Helps if I put it on the layer below so it doesn't cover up the line work. I think this is more like red. More of like that red color, yeah, something like that. And then the legs here are like the brown. And we can make them darker inside this little part. Whoop. Sorry, software likes to lock up frequently. I'm also going to try to get into animation soon because I want to make like animated stuff. And I think those are the next round of shorts that are coming. I still have some kind of queued up. So I have a few queued up, and then I have some ideas that I want to do for some speed paint shorts. But once those are all up, we're going to start making shorts less frequently. But they're going to be animated instead. And it's just because animation takes so dang long to do. So we can't just keep putting them out every single day like we have been. I'd love to do that. I don't have the resources and manpower for that. It's just me. And I also work full time, and I got 3 kids, so not the easiest thing to do. I'm happy to do it though. It is what I love to do. I just wish I could do it more. I'm gonna have to hand color a lot of these as they're so small. Yeah. Ooh. I would love to see where they take the Legend of Zelda franchise moving forward. And you know they're going to, and you know they're already working on a new one. Which, if I had to guess, I would say would probably release with the movie. If it's going to come out, this year. And I don't think I've seen it on any of the lists of expected projects. If it does come out, I guess it would be a surprise. And I think they said the Legend of Zelda movie is coming out next year. So it could be that they're just going to announce it next year. We'll come back through here with another line. Or we can probably, I wonder if we could just fill all of these in. That didn't do anything. Let's fill it all in with white. Alright, you're gonna make me actually do it by hand. The little selector tool just not working. Yeah, there we go. And then we can give it some shade and stuff and do some shadows, and we can move on. Alright, so here's what I got. That's what I got. I know it's blue in the background. I might make that darker, actually. Can't now. I can probably kill the color. And then add a new layer underneath it. And gotta get these two. There we go. And then we'll create a new layer for just the color. Maybe make some little guys hanging from the ceiling. Like this guy's in a cave too. He just hangs out at the top of the cave where the other guy crawled around, maybe the bottom. This guy's crawling around the top. He's jumping around the top. Oh. Don't want to go through that. We can fill these guys in. And this particular area, you got to worry about this dude jumping around the ceiling, swinging around and flying around everywhere. And the other guy's crawling around the bottom. We'll just put it on the ink layer or whatever. We just want to go around to imply that it's got form. Do you guys have a favorite Legend of Zelda? I think the big one is like everyone likes Tears of the Kingdom, which I thought was a lot of fun. I actually 100%ed that game, which is an insane time sink. But I can't even say that it was really worth it. I wish that Nintendo did trophy systems or achievements the way that PlayStation does. Or, because I have a PlayStation, I don't have an Xbox anymore. The way that PlayStation does, or the way that Xbox has achievements and stuff. That way you can just show off your achievements. I feel like doing the achievement runs or trophy runs on PlayStation are a lot more fun than completing a game 100% on Nintendo, because, like, who cares? Who's even going to know that you did that? At least on PlayStation, they can see that I've completed, I have completed the game at 100%. Let's make some bats flying around or something. That looks like a dove, a black dove. Because this guy's jumping around a cave, right? Imagine he's not just jumping around New York City like Spider-Man does. Did that not work? I guess it did. You can't really see it. Make it a little darker then. Okay, there you go. Even though we're at like an hour now. Sorry about that. I'm going to try to make them a little quicker moving forward. It just takes me a while to to draw the designs out and ink and color them, and I'll get some shadows thrown on here, and then I will post this on the shorts, and this video should go up tomorrow night. Well, tomorrow night. Now it's later tonight because it's well after midnight. So at any rate, thanks for sticking around this long, and we'll see you next time.